14 years old. I just woke up and I head to the bathroom. I take a glance in the mirror, and there it is. The amount of disgust and disappointment that I felt in that moment. If only I could have looked different. A large majority of my life up to this point, especially in middle school, I've always worn long sleeves. I didn't want anyone seeing my body. Face and hands, that's all you get. And there were good times, swimming up in the pool in the summer. But man, I was so self-conscious. I've always been a pretty skinny guy my whole life. But there was stuff like, I've always hated my chest, and my stomach protruded out more than the rest of my body, and it just, biceps too small. It was just, I remember trying to suck my stomach in and brace my abs so I would look better. And just to put this in perspective, there were a few times where I remember, my wearing long sleeves actually was dangerous. Like one of the times, it was somewhere in middle school, and most of the day we had to run across on a track, on a running track. And this was in the summertime, 80 degrees, and I, of course, had my jacket on and was running that track. I don't remember how many loops we had to do, but I was doing it. I was probably going around jogging pace, just doing my laps, having earbuds in, listening to music. And I remember when we were done, when we were walking back, one of the teachers, and I was walking with one of the teachers, and he looks at me, he's like, "Aren't you hot in that thing?" And me trying to play it off cool. Get it? Cool. Okay. I was like, no, I'm not hot. I could tell immediately he wasn't buying it. Not for a second. And yeah, of course I was freaking hot, man. I was dying. When we got back to school, there was like 1 or 2 classes left. I remember sitting in class, and sweat was dripping down my back, like my shirt was soaked. My whole arms were, pretty much my entire body was soaked. And I remember sitting there and like I didn't feel right. Like it felt like there was a second heart in my brain. It sounds weird, but that's probably the best way I could describe it. And then I asked the teacher, "Can I go to the bathroom?" Go to the bathroom. Look in the mirror. I looked like the freaking Kool-Aid man, like with this red hot. It was my face was so red. It was. I'm pretty convinced I was on the brink of a heat stroke, and the only reason, like I don't know how I did it. I really don't. But I share this because it shows the extent of my willingness to not lose this protection. It wasn't until I was about 16 and I got a job, and that's where I kind of had to figure out how to work without long sleeves. It was at a pizza shop, and as you could imagine, it's kind of hard to wash dishes whenever you have these freaking sleeves on your arms. And then you're done washing dishes, and then now you got wet swamp arm. And that feeling of not wearing long sleeves, like that took a long time to get used to. It probably didn't help that I was only wearing short sleeves to work, and then after work it was straight back to them sleeves were up again, or rolled down again. And that feeling of making a pizza and then putting in the oven without sleeves on, and meanwhile, people are watching, customers are sitting there watching, it felt so vulnerable. And I know it sounds silly. It sounds so silly. It's only my bicep and my arm being shown. Like, But man, I had this protection for years. It was a protection. I was safe. I was safe in this jacket. And then all of a sudden, it needs to be stripped away. It was a lot. I hated my body, man. I absolutely despised the thing. Eventually, though, I ended up getting used to and normalizing wearing short sleeves again. It started being normal for me to go outside in the summer and just have a t-shirt on. When I was 18, still working at the pizza shop, I remember me and my brother we were walking the dogs, and at some point during the walk, he brings up his phone and he shows me this guy with caveman feet, and he's explaining all these benefits about barefoot, and I remember being like, wow, that's really cool, but I'm never doing that. That's crazy. I would never try that. And mind you, up until this point, I have never thought about my feet. Like, they've always been these weird, disgusting things that just drag me along throughout the day. Like, I never bothered with them. I kind of just wake up, instantly put socks on, and there it is. I wore shoes pretty much all of the time except whenever I was showering or sleeping. If I was inside, it was socks and sandals. If I was outside, socks and Converse. Then maybe like a week or two goes by, and my brother shows me another video. I think this is from the same guy, showing me these barefoot videos. And we were both like, alright, next time we walk the dogs, let's try this out. Let's just try it out. And you know what? We did. About halfway through our walk, that's where one of us remembered, oh wait, let's try this barefoot thing. So we just flop our Crocs off and started walking barefoot. Keep in mind, we're walking on a road, and this was a type of back road that it was the worst place to start. I was walking for maybe like 2 minutes max. I was like, yeah, this freaking sucks. I'm never trying this again. Screw that. But I do remember a part of me was frustrated with it, because in my mind I was thinking, like, this is supposed to be natural. Like, our ancestors walked barefoot miles, and I can't walk for 2 minutes. Mind you, I wasn't thinking about like natural versus man-made surface. I was just thinking barefoot walking. That's it. Not. Some weeks later, we're out in the woods, of course, with the doggos. I love them dogs. We're out on like a somewhat beachy area. It's more big rocks. But I was like, maybe this is a good spot to lose the shoes. And that was probably the first time that I can remember where I was barefoot in the woods. And that time it was way more forgiving than the freaking road, dude. And it actually was a lot more pleasant. It was nice. More time passed, like months later, and I was like, dude, I want to make a YouTube channel. What kind of stuff can I make? I was like, what if I do a 100-day barefoot challenge? Have a little journey of try this whole barefoot thing and share my progress on it. And the YouTube thing, it didn't happen, but I did actually do the challenge. I recorded some intro and a little video of me running. I never actually dedicated to the YouTube. I did dedicate to the 100-day challenge. I was barefoot all of the time, except whenever at work or whenever like going to a store or something. I started in 2022. It's been 4 years and I'm still going. And I bring this barefoot journey up because it was a step toward healing and away from that harmful view that I had towards my body. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I didn't really like my feet. I didn't really think about them. I always stuffed them in socks or shoes and just like, yeah, get away. And it didn't help that everyone thought I was crazy. Maybe I am. Eventually, I stopped seeing ugly feet and I started getting fascinated at them. Like, these things They carry your body. They carry the rest of your body. And the whole structure of them, like, they're incredible. And eventually, that led me to start going shirtless out in the woods. I was still pretty self-conscious, but it was a good step in the right direction. Now this comes to the part where I would have never imagined that I'd get here. You asked me a couple years ago, and I would have said you were crazy. So whenever I lost the shoes, whenever I was barefooting for most of my day, most of the week, most of the month, I started seeing shoes as tools. And tools don't need to be used constantly. They don't need, you're not carrying a hammer with you everywhere you go. They're good for situations where protection is really needed. Like, if I was gonna work in construction, I'm gonna want some good shoes in the workplace. But there are a lot of scenarios where people blow the actual danger out of proportion. One of the things that I've heard a lot is like, oh, you're gonna step on glass, or you're gonna step on nails. People make it out to be like there's glass everywhere. Like, everywhere's littered with glass and nails. At least in my experience, that's not the case. And I remember a moment where I was walking through the woods, and I stopped for a second, look around, and I was like, what about clothes? Now I'm looking around here, and these pair of shorts really aren't doing much in a practical sense. Like, maybe they're protecting a little bit from insects and stuff, but no, I'm pretty much, most of my body is exposed anyway, and I'm not really getting attacked or anything. This is a situation where I see no problem to just lose the shorts. But then there's other problems, like neighbors or other people seeing. When I started doing more research into it, like, I got even more fascinated. Something that is so frowned upon in our culture is totally fine in other cultures. Especially growing up, there was always this sort of link with nudity and sex. But then I look into it, and then I come across nudism, and it's saying there isn't a link between nudity and sex. And I'm like, is that even possible? My whole life, you were only free of clothes if you were taking a shower. But like, realizing this is something that is culturally learned. Our biology isn't wired that way. And so you know what I did? After researching more and more, trying to soak up as much as I can, after all of that, I decided to go to a nudist campground. And let me tell ya, it was not at all what I was expecting. I didn't even really know what to expect, to be honest. Like, the whole drive there was so much anxiety. I was like, am I really doing this? I could just turn back now and like never think about it again. Like, we don't have to do it. But I kept going. The place that I went to was a little nestled in woods, so I got to experience what it was like to just run through their trails without wearing anything. It was a little rainy, it was a little cold, but I didn't care. It was so freeing, and everyone there was so laid back and chill. All of these anxieties, all of these fears that I had, they were all just brewing in my head. It was all head. Nobody actually cared. Nobody, it's not like everyone had binoculars staring at you. Like, it was normal. Everyone there seemed just authentic. Like, this is me. This is what you get. Like, this is me. I'm not trying to fake something. That's what you get. My first time became a second time, and then a third time, and then a fourth time, and it became so healing. All of these insecurities I had about my body, they didn't just melt away. But the more I lose the clothes, the less these insecurities have a hold on me. And look, you might be thinking, maybe this is exactly what I thought too, that this environment, this place was, sure, their website says that, their website says these things, but in reality, it's probably something more. It's probably provocative, and it wasn't that at all. There are definitely places where that may be the case, and I would not recommend going to those, but this place, it was family friendly. There's no tolerance for that kind of behavior. And I understand this might bring up like a ton of questions. You might have ton of questions popping up and like all these things, and I know I did too. And I'm down to answer any questions you might have in the comments. Maybe I can make a cool video about it. I just wanted to make this video because I have hated my body for so long. And all of these unrealistic, robotic expectations that society places upon us, they make people like me wish they had a different body. But these ideals are not the norm, and some of them aren't even healthy in the first place. We're human. We're freaking human. We have scars, we have wrinkles, we have undesirable this and that. Trying out nudism / naturism has made me realize that that is okay. I only hope to share my experiences so that it might help at least one other person. Do you have to try out a nudist place? Maybe not. I found it to bring immense healing, but maybe you don't need to be nude around other people to find that healing for yourself. I would definitely recommend it though. Maybe work up to it first. I mean, try being nude in your house. Try sleeping naked. Try really looking at your body and see how you feel about it. You know, when you look in certain places, how do you feel? Bring that, don't push it down, just let it go through its flow and sit with it for a little bit. Absolutely, do your own research. Don't take any of my word for it. I'm just here sharing my experience, and you do with it as you will. It sounds crazy, and maybe it is freaking crazy, but it is kind of the biological default. I don't know. What do you think?